Hi guys, welcome back to PowerPoint Glamour. In this video today, we will check and we will learn how to use variables in Articulate Storyline 360. For example, in this welcome slide, we will create a situation in which the employee would have to input their name, and then this name would be saved in a variable which will be recalled in the second slide. So let's input a name here. For example, this is Steve. Then you click on begin, and then you see in the next slide the name is called from that variable. So this is what we will learn today, so stay tuned. Alright, so let's jump into the project. So these are the two slides that I had created. So the first slide is the welcome message with the character inserted here, and then the second slide here will call the variable and display the name that is entered here. So let's start. So let me delete this text box and I'll show you again how to insert this. So you have this slide that you created, you put in the text box, you put in the message, and you click, you actually create a button, and you also insert a character. So now how do we insert a text box which will actually capture the name and save it in a variable in Articulate Storyline? Okay, so after you have done creating this, go to insert, and then you go to input. Under input you see a lot of things like checkboxes, radio buttons, and then under data entry you have this text entry field. So click on text entry field, select and drag it like a text box. Okay, so now you have your input entry field created. Now whenever there is an input entry field created, there are variables which are automatically created by Storyline. So let's go and check the variables that are created in this project. So to check the variables in the project, you go to this panel, and on the extreme right hand side you have this manage project variables button. So click on that, it will open the variables that you have been created. So this one which we just created is the text entry. This one was the previous one that I had created, the demo. So text entry, let's delete this and call it, give it a name so that it's easy for you to recall it in the projects. So call it employee test. Okay, then click on OK. Alright, so this input field is created and the variable by the name employee test is also created, which will save the name or the input of this text box in that variable. Okay, so this is how you create a variable. This is how a variable saves the information. Now to the second step, we go to the second slide and we will see how do we call that variable. Okay, so because we have the variable saved in Articulate Storyline, let's see how do we recall the variable and the text that is saved in that variable. So for that, just create a text box with the text like this and have the cursor clicked here and blinking. Okay, and then to recall the variable, what you need to do is go to insert again, and in insert you will have a function called insert reference. Okay, so click on insert reference. When you click on insert reference, it will open up the variables window, and variables, select the variable that you want to call. So we will call the employee test variable. Okay, so the employee test, select that and then click on OK. So now you see the name of the variable employee test is inserted here with a certain background color. So that means it's a variable. This means it's a reference. Okay, so now let's go back and check in the preview how it appears. So let's go to preview and select this scene. Do not select this slide because it will only play this slide. So when you select scene, it will play the whole scene till it ends. So let's select this scene. Okay, now let's insert a name, Holly. Then click on begin, it will take you to the next slide which says Holly. Now let's go back and insert another name and try test. Click on begin and it says test. Okay, so it's working. For example, if the person who is visiting this course does not insert anything and just clicks on begin, let's see what happens. Clicks on begin. Oh, it's still going through. So that's not what we want. So we want the slide not to proceed further until and unless the person inserts his or her name. So let's add that validation or restriction as well. Now let's go back to the slide. Okay, so let's see. Let's say if the person clicks on begin without inserting the name, okay, then we would like to have a message box saying that please enter your name to begin. All right, so for that, let's create a new layer. All right, so let's insert a new layer. Okay, you can see the layer has been inserted here. Now let's have a shape on this layer like a message box. Let's put some text. And please enter your name. Okay, then let's have a button on this message box. So let's insert a button from here, which will say OK. Alright, so this is a message box that will appear when the user clicks on begin without inserting or inputting the name. Okay, so the layer is created. Now we need to give some validations, some restrictions. Okay, so let's go back to the base layer. Then let's go back to this trigger which says jump to next slide when the user clicks on this button. This button is begin button. Okay, so let's open this trigger and modify it a little. Okay, so when the user clicks button, it is going to the next slide. This is the trigger which is inbuilt. So now we need to modify this trigger saying that do not go until and unless this text box is not blank. So if, click on if, then go to objects, if it is variables, employee text, value is not equal to blank. Let's make it not equal to blank. It's not equal to blank. So it will jump to next slide when the user clicks on this button, and when the user clicks on this button, it will also check this condition. Just check that this employee test input variable is not equal to value blank. So unless and until it is not equal to blank, it will not go to the next slide. So this is the condition that we'll put. And then we will also call this layer. Let's call this layer, and else say show layer. If it is blank, it should call this layer which we just created. Say untitled layer. Okay, so again, so it will jump to the next slide when the user clicks on this button, and when the user clicks on the button, it will check the condition that it is not blank, and if it is blank, it will call this error layer which we have just created. Okay, so let's say okay. Now there's one more thing. So when this layer comes up, okay, when this layer comes up, we need to close this layer also, right? Not be on the screen. So let's put a trigger on this button, so it will be hide layer. Hide layer, this layer when the user clicks on button 1. So when the user clicks on this button OK, it will close this layer. Okay, so now let's try that. So now let's go to preview this thing. Okay, so let's not insert anything. Let's not input any data here. Let's try and click on next. Oh, it's going to. What did we miss? Okay, let's do the preview again. So we were actually clicking on the next button. We were not clicking on the begin button. So let's click on the begin button and see without entering any value in the field. So let's click on begin. Okay, so it says please enter your name because we have not entered anything. In the previous thing, what we did was we clicked on next without inserting. So it is going to the next slide without any data. So we'll have to fix this also. So let me show you how to fix that as well. So because we have created a trigger for this button, okay, we have configured this button. We have not configured the player trigger, which is the next button. So we have to configure this next button also in the same way. So double click to open it. When the user clicks on object next, conditions should be that the employee test should not be equal to value blank, else show layer, which is untitled layer. Okay, great. So now we have configured this button as well as the next button to the same trigger. Now let's watch the preview on both ways. This scene. Okay, without entering, let's click on next. So it says enter your name. You say okay, it hides that layer. Click on begin, it shows the error. It's not going forward till you enter the name. So let's enter the name. Then say begin. Great. Now it's going to the next slide. So that's how you do it. So this is how you create variables. This is how you call the variables. Okay. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave it in the comment section below. I'll be happy to help. Thanks for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Bye-bye.